review, but we got one off the X Files too. Hey, we're live. Hello, Peter Baird. How are you?
I am doing fabulous on this Sao Paulo birthday. It is Sao Paulo's
Yeah.
472nd birthday, I believe.
God damn it. Uh, yes, I totally forgot about it. When my boss told me that Monday was a holiday, I was like, "What holiday?" And then I was reminded that it was São Paulo's birthday, which brings back some good memories because when I first came to São Paulo way back when, it was like at the end of the year, but the first big event that I went to, because I don't really celebrate Christmas and New Year or anything, was the anniversary of São Paulo, and I got to see. I went down to Praça da Sé, which is the point zero, like ground zero of the city. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
the epicenter, and
It
they
is
had
a
this huge, like,
graphic bullseye.
yeah, and it was packed from like the whole thing was packed, and there was a Cel Jorge. He's a famous Brazilian musician. He was playing live, and he was awesome. It was when one of his albums was out, and it was really hot. Uh, and Rita Ribeiro, I think, is this lady that was she kind of mixes rock with like samba music and like electronic. Like it was kind of wild. It was fun, man. Those were the simple times, simpler times.
Nice,
And
nice. I
so
actually saw Anita play on Sao Paulo's birthday in 2017. She played in Anhagabu. And I don't like Anita at all, but you gotta admit, she's hot. Like she
she
does a
is
good
hot.
show. Like
Yeah, she's a show woman, so it may not be your type of music, but you respect just what she puts. Like she's not. I'm not a big fan at all. But So
no,
Georgia was
no.
awesome, and So Georgia is fucking great. He actually has an album. I don't know if you're a David Bowie fan,
I
but
do. I am.
okay, because he has this really great album because that he did of David Bowie songs, but in Portuguese. He did
Right.
translations of them. It's all acoustic. It was for a Bill Murray movie, I believe, called This Life Aquatic, something like that. Came out a few years ago,
The Life
or more than a
Aquatic.
few.
Yeah, yeah. That's a
Yeah, something like
strange
that.
ass movie.
Yeah, and I remember that album got repercussion. Like I heard about it on NPR, because they're like, "Oh, this guy did the whole soundtrack, and it's all these David Bowie songs, like on acoustic guitar in Portuguese, and they're really nice. Really, really, he's a really interesting artist down here, real cool artist." But anyway, enough about that, guys. Tonight we are back. Oh no, before we do anything, thank you. Those that have been listening, liking and subscribing, continue liking and subscribing and sharing our little Monday night podcast. And thank you everybody that's been watching on Thursdays. Pete and I have been doing an X Files recap review of the whole series. We just started, so it's going to take us a while to get through it all. And we've gotten a few new subscribers off of that, which is cool too. And we're getting like a
Yeah,
steady
and
little
thanks for
viewership.
putting up with all our technical difficulties too. I mean, it's
Definitely.
not easy here. The internet is shit. We have shit weather that interferes with our shitty internet, and sometimes things don't go as planned. But
Hmm.
I'm glad that people have stuck with it. So thank you guys.
That is true. Well, just right before we came on, it was like, tornado warning. It felt like it, right?
Yeah,
It wasn't,
yeah,
but
it
it
was
was
the
coming.
apocalypse here, man.
I know we got a heavy rainstorm for about an hour, so I was like, oh shit, I guess we're not going to do our show tonight. But now it's like peaceful and quiet. It's like, what? Yeah, that's
Very
São Paulo
quiet.
for you.
Yeah.
And it was burning hot this afternoon. I got a headache right now because I went running this afternoon with no hat, and like my head just is like pumping right now. It's pulsing. So São Paulo, as they say, is all the seasons in one day. That's like the catchphrase here in São Paulo. You get all the seasons in one day, and it really is true. It's fucking nuts. But anyhow, we're here to talk about movies. And Pete, what did you see here? What movies are you going to talk about?
I am going to talk about One Night in Miami, which is a really cool movie about. I, I don't want to say it's a true story because it is a fact that these four guys met on this night. But as to what actually happened, nobody knows. It's just speculation. But I
Yeah, so
think
the
it's
four
pretty accurate.
guys. Okay. And the
Yeah,
four
I think
guys you are Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, Jim Brown, and Sam Cooke.
yeah, and I think it's a pretty accurate representation of probably what went down. Because why the fuck else would these guys have this meeting? I mean, if you took Malcolm X out of the equation, they would probably all just be partying. But when you throw Malcolm X in there, then yeah, you kind of get an idea of what's going to go down. And I'm going to talk about the Queen's Gambit, and I've been very disciplined because everyone has seen this show, and I did not binge watch it. I watched one episode a week for 7 weeks, and I finally finished it, and now I'm ready to talk about it.
All right, cool. Yeah, yeah. I was surprised that you didn't binge that one. So I'm curious as to what your opinion of it is. And I'll be slipping in, guys, with Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which I saw last week, which was a movie everybody was talking about forever. And I finally got a chance to watch it during my little vacation. And we're gonna close out with Disney Pixar Soul. And I'll give you my thoughts on that when we get there. So before we get to it, as usual, oops, that's thanks for watching. Let's go back. Before we get to it, let's talk about some quick picks. And I think Pete's gonna take this one. Well, Pete said he's got a couple, so I'm gonna just slip in one real quick. And next week I'll probably talk about it more at length. But check out the what is it called? The History of Swear Words,
The history of
hosted
swear
by
words. I've been binging that this weekend, man.
yes.
It's
Okay,
great.
yeah, it is pretty cool. We'll talk about it more at length probably next week because I didn't finish it yet. But from what I've seen, I've only watched 2 episodes. It's really cool. So that's my quick pick. Watch it so then you can join us next week and we can talk about it more at length and kind of break it down. But it's been pretty cool so far. But what you got there, sir?
I'm going with a double dose of Jonah Hill, actually. I'm still doing my A24 marathon. So I watched this movie that was actually written and directed by Jonah Hill.
The
He's
King of
not.
Swear Words.
Yes, apparently, although I have seen no evidence of that, but nevertheless. Yeah, it's called Mid 90s. And it's about this cute little kid who has kind of a dysfunctional home life, and he falls in with this crew of skater kids who are older and bad influences. And he's kind of empowered by the experience, but at the same time it's kind of self-destructive. And I could relate to it a bit because I was a foster kid, and before I was a foster kid, like, you go into this period between when you are with your parents and when you're with your foster home, and you live in what they call receiving homes. And I was like 12 years old. All these kids were much older than me. I looked up to them, but of course, they were all like totally dysfunctional, doing bad shit. They were drinking, they were doing drugs, but you really want their approval. And when you get it, it feels so good that you kind of tend to neglect that, like, okay, you're making friends and you're getting this approval, but at the same time, you're not doing yourself any favors. I mean, I was lucky. I had people in my life that kind of taught me back on the right path. But you can see if you've had these experiences where this kid is going. And I thought it was really interesting that Jonah Hill was the writer and director of this movie. Obviously, maybe some personal experiences in there, but it's good. It's not great, but if I thought it was great, it would be a main pick, not a quick pick. But
Mm.
it was definitely relatable and enjoyable. And the other Jonah Hill movie would be Moneyball, which is one of my favorite movies of the past decade, actually. And I just rewatched it again today. And yeah, it's an amazing movie because I think a lot of people pass on this because I think, oh, it's about baseball. It's going to be boring. But it's not about baseball. It's about economics. And the science that they use in this movie is I think really educational to people who don't understand what economics is. Everybody thinks economics is like investment bankers and shit, but it's not. It's about applying algorithms to predict the future. And that is exactly what these guys did. They used algorithms to build a baseball team on a minimal budget, and it's kind of inspiring the way that they change the way that things are done. So yeah, I had a lot of fun watching that today. I mean, it's an incredibly underrated movie.
I actually have never seen it, and it's one that's on my radar to watch, and I just never get around to it. And I saw that you posted it on your page, and I actually plan to watch it this afternoon, but like I said, I just got this headache, and I was like, "Fuck this shit," and then I ended up watching another movie, which we'll talk about next week, which is PV. But it seems like a movie I would get into because I like movies like this that are they explain shit from a different angle, similar to that one called was it The Big Short? Is that the story? The movie where they talk about the housing crisis, but they
Oh, I
made
know the
it.
one you're talking about. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
remember
same
the story.
director from that did the Cheney movie. Just that Cheney I didn't think was that good. But it was cool because it explains something that can seem so complex, but in a way, one, it's from a different angle, but two, in a way that's malleable and entertaining. So it's a movie, and I love baseball. I know you're not a big fan. You always put that. You don't have to be a baseball fan to like this movie. I actually happen to really love baseball too.
Ah, then
And by
you're
the way,
probably
rest in peace.
yeah.
Rest in peace, Hank Aaron, the Hammer.
Ah, yes, yes. R.I.P.
Yes,
Hank Aaron.
who
Okay.
died this past week. And I love economics. I like Freakonomics too, which is a really nice podcast and
Freakonomics
in
is
book.
amazing.
Yeah, so if it seems like it would be right
Yeah,
up my
exactly.
alley.
If you like Freakonomics, you'll love Moneyball because it applies like the same formulas. And they're fucked for a while. Like if you don't know baseball, like the Oakland A's were like
Hmm.
really struggling. It was a huge gamble, and it did not work initially. But they made the adjustments, and yeah, they set the record for consecutive wins in Major League Baseball.
Yes, yes, yes. We got one viewer there. If you want to say hi, say hi. Tell us what you've watched this week. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. And yeah, yeah. So that's what I want to check out. Definitely want to check that one out. I'll see how I feel after we're done. I'm gonna take a shower and see how I feel. I might actually slip it in before I go to bed. Anyway, guys, those are our quick picks. So check out some of these movies if you get a chance. But let's get to the main course. In the main course, we're starting with some Malcolm X. I congratulate you for being a screwed brother. So tell me about this, because this is
Yes,
Regina King,
yes.
right? Of
This is
the lady
yeah,
from right?
I believe so. Yes, I'm not familiar with, but I definitely enjoyed this one. I am a huge boxing fan, so obviously I'm all over Muhammad Ali, and I do dig soul music as well. So definitely Sam Cooke is the king there.
Yes, good old Sam. Good old.
I played running back. I played running back, so definitely Jim Brown is at least a source of inspiration. And he's a cool motherfucker. Like you can't not like Jim Brown. Jim Brown's fucking cool. Malcolm X
Uh,
as a white
but
person, a dude
what's the
who felt
story here?
cult. Yes, yes, I will get. So the story is Muhammad Ali wins the heavyweight title from Sonny Liston, and he invites Sam Cooke and of course they think it's like going to be a party, like you're going to be getting down with girls, like having a good time. But where that goes wrong is Malcolm X is introduced to the equation, and you can probably guess what that means. Um, Ali was really tight with Malcolm X at the time. He was about to convert to Islam, and the quote unquote party is him trying to get Sam Cooke and Jim Brown to convert to Islam.
Mm. The Nation of Islam.
So yeah, this is the. It's funny because Jim Brown is like he basically he's like, you know, Malcolm, it's cool what you're doing, but I like my. That's basically that's the end of Jim Brown's involvement. For the rest of it, he's the mediator. But
Mm.
Malcolm X, because Sam Cooke is resentful. He's like, man, like the Kennedy assassination, like mothering us no good at all. You're making things worse. And Malcolm X comes back like, you have like the most powerful medium to reach people. Use it. You're singing bullshit love songs. And they're at each other's throats, man. And it's funny because you can see that like they love for each other, but they're ideologically opposed and they're just ripping at each other. And if you're a fan of Sam Cooke at all, you probably know what the ending is going to be, because this is like Malcolm X saying, like, man, you've never written a song that is mean. You've never written a song that speaks to our people. And if you're a Sam Cooke fan, of course, you know he did eventually. So that's kind of where this is going. But all the characters have great relationships with each other. Like the interaction is really to watch. Especially my favorite scene in this movie, absolutely, is when because this took place at the time Malcolm was having a falling out with the Church of Islam to the point where he thought they were going to kill him, which they did. And he tells Ali, like, yeah, I'm leaving the Church of Islam. And he's like, motherfucker! And he like almost punches him out. Jim Brown has to pull him off. He's like, you fucking dragged me into this shit. Now you're backing out? Motherfucker. So yeah, there's a lot of great elements going on in with these like four very powerful characters who, I mean, it could be argued were probably the four most influential black men of their time. And yeah, Martin Luther King was around then too. So I guess maybe like four of the five most influential black men of the time. But yeah, their interactions and their diverse, you know, conflicts, way of looking at things, but all having the same goals. Yeah, it makes for a fascinating movie. It's very key. Like there's no story to speak of. It's just these four guys talking. But to me, like, who wouldn't want to spend 2 hours watching these four guys talking? Like that would be amazing, and it is amazing. So thumbs up.
Uh, Give me 1 second here, because I'm trying to get the. I think it was a movie here, I Am Not Your Negro, that was released a few years back about James Baldwin. And it's based on his unfinished manuscript, Remember the House, where he describes his relationship with uh, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and the third civil rights leader who I cannot, whose name I can't remember right now. I'm looking here. Medgar Evers, sorry. And anyway, why am I bringing this up? One, because it's how this all started. It was just me by myself talking on a Monday night about this movie. And in fact, whenever I do the little uh, what do you call it? The photo here, the little thumbnail, and I save it. The name of the file is Baldwin because that's the very first one. So I always just copy over it. But I'm bringing that up because of what Pete just said. It's so interesting to just get a chance to look into these characters' mind, and I recommend that movie, Pete. I think I told you back in the day to watch it. I
We
think you'd
we
be.
reviewed it. Reviewed
Oh,
it
did we
on
do
the
it
show,
together then?
actually.
Oh, okay. I thought I was by myself still, so I might have
Yeah.
done one other by myself before. If not, then it was the two of us. But anyway, okay. Um, so yeah, check that one out. I'm not your Negro. And what's interesting about it is just seeing the lives of these men as men because they're like larger than life, and they're so embroiled in their ideology. I think people forget that, hey, these are actual human beings that just spoke out. And that, and it's so refreshing. It's refreshing, but it's a long ago time, a long, um, that they could disagree with each other, but they still supported and loved each other. And so,
Yeah, yeah. One thing I really liked about this is the portrayal of Malcolm X. Like, he came across as like very self-righteous, which I think like anybody who's seen footage of Malcolm X knows that he was self-righteous. But it
of
kind of
course,
also tapped into his insecurities. Like he had the conviction of his beliefs, but on some level he wasn't like 100% sold on it. Like, he didn't know that what he was doing was the right thing. It was just like kind of the only way he knew how to do things, and his friends are telling him like, motherfucker, this is not the right way. Like they're kind of telling him like, you need to chill the fuck out, dude. Like, there's Jim Brown, especially, he's the mediator. He's basically like, dude, you don't have to be an asshole all the time. And he kind of relates to that, and you can see that there's some insecurities there. Now, what, like, again, this is a work of fiction, so whether or not Malcolm really liked that or not, I don't know. But it was an
well,
interesting portrayal of him.
I think if you read the autobiography of Malcolm X or watch Spike Lee's incredible movie,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
get
I've
that
seen it.
sense. You get that sense that he went through a lot of phases in his life, and then when he finally did go to Mecca for the Hajj, and he saw what real Islam was. That's the only reason I kind of jumped in and said the Nation of Islam, not Islam, because Nation of Islam is not Islam.
Yeah,
Which is not not downing it or anything for any Nation of Islam folks out there, but it's a different beast. So when he went there, and I think and he wrote it, he said it. I saw people of all different colors and races and nationalities going to the Hajj, going to Mecca, and then that changed him. He realized what he was being taught was not true. It was not really Islam. So he came back and he was at odds with the founder, Elijah Muhammad. And that was kind of well, it had already started that they didn't like him too much because he was the star of the show, right? Elijah
yeah,
Muhammad was supposed to be the star of the show, and Malcolm the prophet. But Malcolm was just a very intelligent, well-spoken man, and he was the star of the show to the point where like it's Malcolm's message. No, but it should have been the Nation of Islam's message through Malcolm, and it didn't transmit like that all the time. So
yeah. And
when
he was an idealist too. That's the thing. Like, Elijah Muhammad was fucking corrupt, and he knew it.
very much
And
so.
he wanted to expose it, and that's basically the reason he wound up fucking dead.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And he started being more Malcolm than the prophet of, the voice, the messenger for the nation,
Yeah, he
and
was bad for
especially after
business.
he changed his mind. He
Yeah,
realized, hey, we can work with white people. Not all white folks uh, are the devil's seed, and that was, Nation of Islam wasn't riding with that. So unfortunately, sad, end to his life. But great power, great character in American history. I had to learn more about Malcolm after I left high school, because in high school in America they don't really teach you Malcolm. Like, they bring his name up, but we always get this sense of Martin Luther King was a nice guy and Malcolm was like the Magneto character,
Yeah,
like you don't want to
exactly.
fuck.
Yeah.
And it's not exactly like that. He was just a very complex man, a young man.
He
So
died
he got
very
fed.
young. Very young.
Yeah, yes. I mean, he got fed a lot of stuff at a time when he was lost because he was in jail and he didn't know. He pretty much got molded into Malcolm, and I think it took him a while to become Malcolm. And as the more he became Malcolm, the more the nation resented him for it, I feel. But that's interesting, man. No, this is definitely on my watch list. I know our friend Craig, who is the honorary member of this podcast because we always bring his ass up. I know he said on his page Regina King needs to get a nomination for Best Director. Let me just close the window here because it's just started raining again
I
hard.
know the storm. The storm is fucking insane again. I know it's motherfucking crazy right now.
Anyway, yeah, so Craig had mentioned that. So that got me curious because Craig's got pretty good taste in movies, with the exception of his absolute hatred for La La Land, and yours too.
And
Great movie.
no, yeah, but Craig also likes First Cow, which is not going to be mentioned on this podcast ever because I
Oh
hated
yeah,
it, and trust me,
I
you
gotta
don't want
watch
to
that
watch it.
movie. I gotta
No,
watch it. I
don't.
gotta find some time to watch First Cow. But in any case,
On our
um,
podcast, on our Christmas podcast, I told you I was going to watch
wait,
it
if I gotta put the
right after the
earphones on because I can
podcast,
barely
and
hear
I
you.
did. But I was like, yeah, on our Christmas podcast, I told you I was going to watch it as soon as we were done, and I was like, it's called like Last Horse or something like that. Yeah, it was First Cow. That was the movie, and yeah, it was an unfortunate experience.
Oh, there it goes. Slow movie. But I'm gonna watch it. Yeah, I'm gonna watch it at some point and see if I like it or not. But he did mention Regina King deserves a Best Oscar director
Yeah,
nod for something, and
yeah, I
she's
would say the
having
guy.
a hell of a
I would
year.
say I would say the guy who plays Ali in this movie is probably worthy of at least a nomination, man. Because like he was really good. Like all the actors in this were really good. It's hard because you have to separate the character from the actor, and all the characters are real people. The actors' performances to the real people, but like, man, the guy who played Ali, I believe that motherfucker, man. Like, he was Ali.
She was big, throughout the '90s. She
All
was in
right.
Boys in
So
the
at any
Hood,
rate,
Poetic
Phil,
Justice. Yes. And I'm just saying how Regina is having a bit of a career renaissance. She never really went away, but
is
she
Phil still
won.
alive?
Yeah, no, we're still live. I can hear you. Your internet probably died.
All right, folks. I know I'm still on the air because I can hear the rain in Phil's apartment combined with mine. So I will just try and carry on the conversation as we
Hey,
wait for.
I'm not,
Yes, yes.
I'm here. I'm not on.
Yeah, no, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, okay, that was weird. But no, I was just saying how Regina King is she's having a bit of a career renaissance. She was very big in the '90s and throughout the '90s and the 2000s. She was in Boys in the Hood, Poetic Justice, Legally Blonde, Miss Congeniality, blah blah blah. But she starred in The Watchmen in 2019, won her fourth Emmy Award for that, and She's doing some directing. I never knew she did directing. She did a few episodes of Scandal. This Is Us. You know, she did and now she directed her debut. Directorial debut came with the drama One Night in Miami. So good for her. She's doing her thing.
Yeah,
So
yeah. And what I was saying before you kind of tuned out there is that it's kind of hard to assess the performances in this movie because you compare the actors and their performances to real people. Like you know all these people. I mean, especially Jim Brown. I mean, Jim Brown's the only person in this movie who's still alive. I think. I,
hmm
I'm pretty sure Jim Brown is still alive. I haven't
he
heard of
was. He
him.
was hanging with Trump. He was chilling with Trump.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah, he's a Trump
Yeah,
fan. He's
yeah, he's a
Delroy
Trump.
Lindo. Yeah.
Yes, he's
Uh,
a Trump fan.
yeah. But it's hard to separate their performances from the real life people. But I thought the guy who played Ali was pretty good at that. Like it was a performance, and maybe it wasn't really Ali, but it shouldn't be. Like as an actor, your performance should just be your performance. And I thought that's where he did a great job. Like the guy who played Malcolm X, like he
Well, it's nearly impossible. It's like what you said because we have they're part of. Now I don't think I'm on. Hello, hello. Oh, no, oh, okay, I'm on. I think Pete got knocked off. Guys, it just started raining heavy again. But it's nearly impossible for you to actually, yeah, to portray these people that we know their recent history. Their recent history. There's hundreds of hours of tape of them where you can hear them talk. So you can't do a you can't just do like a mimicking act, like an impersonation, like when
exactly.
uh, yeah, like when you get some actors on the late night shows doing impersonations of Al Pacino or something. You can't do that. You have to kind of just find the spirit of that person. Like I
Exactly. Yeah.
loved that movie Selma. I don't know if you saw Selma. And I was nervous about it because I was like, well, this is like the first major movie that I can recall that's doing a Martin Luther King, as like its main character. Like, how are they going to pull that off? Because Martin Luther King, like, that voice, that drawl that he has and that rhythm that he talks in. Like, how are you going to. But the guy was wonderful that played him because he didn't try to just do an impersonation of Martin Luther King. He got into the spirit of what that man was, at least his public persona, and it worked. It was a beautiful movie. It was a great movie, and you just felt like, okay, this is Martin Luther King. This is the story of the Selma March, and it was a beautiful movie. So cool. I'll definitely check it out. Definitely want to see this movie. And also, by the way, with Malcolm X, difficult to also because Denzel Washington played Malcolm, and I mean, how are you going to top
Yeah.
Denzel Washington, right?
Yeah, and that's a classic example of him playing the character like just the way he felt it, not imitating the character. Which I felt the guy in this movie he kind of did imitate the person more than just play the character. So yeah, Ali stole the show for me.
Yes. Well, with Denzel, actually, some folks didn't want him to be Malcolm because they're like, "Oh, he's too tall, he's too stocky," because Malcolm was a very lanky kind of dude. But
Yeah,
Spike believed in him. He's like, "No, he's gonna get into the spirit of what this man's about, and that's what we need." And he did it. He didn't do an impersonation. He just gave us the spirit of the man. So, well, but Denzel's another level, right? We're talking another level
yeah,
type actor.
he's a rare actor, rare.
So let's move on. And we got another movie here that got a lot of hype last year, and it's Ma Rainey. And I finally got a chance to watch it.
Yeah,
And
it's a
I
nice
know Pete
movie.
watched it too, so he'll give us his thoughts, which is always nice when we both have watched the movies. And it's directed by George C. Wolfe. And speaking of Denzel, Denzel's like on this mission from God lately of rescuing these old playwrights. You know, these
Yeah,
black playwrights. It started with Fences, and moving on to this. And he's got this 10 picture deal with HBO, started in 2013, where he would do adaptations of famous Black American playwrights, and I'm loving it. I'm enjoying it, and so this movie here I thought was even a little bit better than Fences, but it's about
I
a
like them a
real.
lot of fences actually,
Did you
and I
like? I
like
don't
that.
no. I liked Fences a lot. I really loved Fences. But I dug a few things in this movie a little bit more. But we'll talk about that. But this one here is it's written by August Wilson, the original play. Okay, but the adaptation was by Ruben Santiago Hudson, and it focuses on Ma Rainey, which I was surprised. Pete said he's a fan. You said you're a fan of her, right? You're a fan
I
of Ma
love
Rainey.
Ma Rainey. I'm more of a Bessie Smith fan, and actually, one of my favorite things about this movie, there is a scene where she actually disses Bessie Smith.
Uh
But
huh. Yeah,
uh,
and I had never heard of Ma Rainey, so for me it was educational. Bessie Smith,
okay,
yeah, but never Ma Rainey. And I thought
okay,
that was
yeah,
funny too. She's like, I don't care how Bessie Smith's singing. I'm.
yeah, yeah. Well, because Bessie Smith was a fucking drunk, and
Mhm.
what we get from this movie is that Ma Rainey's like she's got her shit together,
100% together. And so, for those that don't know, she's an influential blues singer from way back in the 20s, called the Mother of the Blues, and very, very, very popular singer of the time. And this movie centers around a recording session in Chicago in 1927 with her and her band. And her band is made up of Mr. Chadwick Boseman in his last performance. And we got Glenn Turman, Coleman Domingo, and Michael Potts in supporting roles, which were all great. And it just deals with the drama between the band members first,
man.
waiting for her to arrive for the rehearsal, and the different personalities. Chadwick Boseman, especially, he plays a
He
supporting
is
role,
outrageous.
but he is incredible. He played Levy Green, which was the trumpeter, and he's this young trumpeter that feels like he's got the talent to be more than just a session musician. He wants to uh, he wants to write his own music. He wants to play longer solos. And this kind of clashes with Ma Rainey because she's the star of the show, not Levy Green. And the rest of the band, they all think he's just this young fool. They're on her side, obviously, and they're on her side on this also because hey, we got jobs, man. We're working. Like we're not gonna try to shake the boat either. Uh, but that's one drama, and then the other drama is just Ma Rainey herself. How she is
Yeah,
just this impetuous woman, insane, says what she wants, doesn't give a damn,
I
and
don't.
orders people around. But
I don't think she's impetuous at all. I think she knows exactly what she's doing. She's trying to keep herself from being taken advantage of, and she
exactly
does. She
though.
does all this bitch stuff specifically to show people like who the fuck is boss. Because if you don't take that initiative, you're going to wind up getting walked all over.
But that's it. I was gonna get to it because that's what you feel for about 30 minutes. You're like, well, this lady's insane.
Yeah, yeah,
Until
exactly.
Viola Davis does her thing, and you get this other layer of Ma Rainey when she sits down with her trombone player and they have this heart to heart, and you're like, oh shit, this is who Ma Rainey really is,
Yeah,
uh, and she explains exactly why it is that she acts the way she does and is as mean. She's this mean old bitch for the majority of this movie. It's because that's what you got to do to not get stepped on.
yeah.
Um, and she understood that, and she was very ahead of her time for understanding that, and that's something that has carried on throughout, especially with black musicians, because they would have, they would get shit on a lot as far as signing bad contracts, not making money, etc., etc. A
Yeah.
funny, famous story with the Queen of Soul herself, Aretha Franklin, is that she would not step on the stage until she got paid, and she would usually step on the stage with a little purse, and in that purse was her money. She's like,
Oh,
no,
nice.
you, like, the money's got to be in my hand, and then I'll step on the stage. And then after listening to this story, I watched that famous performance that she did of A Natural Woman for President Obama, that kind of went viral because I think Carole King was being given some award. In any case, now every time I watch that movie, all I see is her walking on the stage with this little handbag.
Yeah.
She has this little handbag in her hand, and she puts it on top of the piano before she starts playing, and then she goes into this gorgeous rendition of Natural Woman. And you're like, man, she was in her 70s, but she was still had that mentality.
Yeah.
And it's not something you can get out of somebody. Different era. It's like my dad when we would have dinner, and he just wouldn't talk during dinner. Why? Because he grew up during the fucking depression where you had to eat. Like, dinner
Yeah.
time was not talking time. Dinner time was
And children were best seen and not heard. That was a famous
exactly.
line from that time.
Exactly. So we respected it. It's like he was happy there was food on the table, so he was gonna eat it. He wasn't trying to chat with you while the food got cold, because he grew up at a time where you had to wait in line to get one loaf of bread. So
Right.
those things get ingrained in you. So I love that, because at first I was like, this bitch is crazy. I mean, it was
No, one of my
fun
favorite
crazy.
scenes in this movie is the Coke scene, where
Hmm.
she almost cries. She's like, "I work my ass off for you white motherfuckers, and you won't even buy me a goddamn bottle of Coke." And it's like,
Hmm.
go get her a fucking Coke, you know. But I
Yes.
mean, she's making her point, man. Like she's saying, like, I'm making you motherfuckers money. Like, you got to do shit for me too.
And she understood that they only wanted her for her voice. They didn't give a shit about her for real. And that goes into a long history of Black Americans, Black and Brown Americans, who are only really commemorated for their bodies, or like their voices, not their
Yeah.
intellect, not what they bring on that level. Can you dance? Can you kick a ball? Can you run fast? Okay, then you're like champion of the world. But the moment you start actually speaking, then go sit over there, which is why, go and kind of making a connection with the movie you saw. That's why Muhammad Ali was so fucking incredible and so important, because he was one of the first athletes that said, yo, I got more than just a punch. My mouth is also, I can knock you out with
Yeah.
the words coming out of my mouth. Jim Brown
Yeah.
too.
And what she did
So
for her nephew in that movie too. Like, I was on the side of the musicians. I was like, motherfucker, this guy is never going to get it. Never,
oh
never.
yes, because the
And
boy had
then
a stutter.
yeah, and then he does, of course, the first time, but they don't have the tape player running. It's like, oh my god. But they finally get it. And that's like a famous song now. Like, and it's a great song. So yeah, good for her for sticking up for her people, man.
Exactly. But then we get Chadwick, and Chadwick for me stole the show. I mean, as incredible as Viola Davis was in this movie, and she just is Viola Davis, Chadwick is the character that I think we might have even spent more screen time with him. I think there was more screen time with him in the band waiting for her.
It's
And
about
then
50-50, I think.
yeah, yeah, but it felt like more. I don't know. More stuff happened because she was kind of just hitting that one note. It was just like
Right.
she's just yelling at these white folks, and then we got that great scene where you got why she was like that, and then she's back to yelling at these white folks. Whereas he went through a whole range of this, that, and the third.
Yeah.
which um, which is him just being this young man who really wants to do something with his life, but not being able to deal with some past trauma that has held him back. And I don't want to give too much away because that's a really
Yeah,
intense
that was
scene
pretty harsh. That was pretty
where
harsh.
he talks about why it is that he acts how he does, because the band members are kind of joking with him a little bit that he. Oh, hi, Renee Adolfi. Did you see? Oh, we were trying to invite Renee on tonight. I wanted to know if she had seen this movie. So, Renee, if you did see the movie and you want to jump in the conversation, that would be really nice. We love Renee. She's been on before.
Yes, she has.
Yes, and she's really fun. But let us know, Renee, and I can send you the invite link and you can jump in real quick. But anyway, the what yeah, so they're making fun of him for kind of being too nice and servile towards the white people, and then he breaks down that you don't know shit about me, you don't know anything about me and who I really am and what my relationship is with white folks. And from there, the mood changes down in that basement with these
Yeah.
musicians. And that's when Chadwick Boseman just shines, man. He just steals this movie, goes through a range of emotions. Can't give it all away,
No.
but it's tragic, it's intense, it's sad, and and I wrote a little review for it on Letterbox. By the way, if you all want to find me on Letterbox, Phil Ray 81. And it goes into something. Now, Renee and I have talked about this. Now, she hopped in right at the right moment because she and I watched Beloved, the adaptation of the Toni Morrison book. And Toni Morrison speaks a lot about black insanity, black madness, and she writes a lot about this. These like, why do these black people just go mad? Why are they so angry? You ever hear that, Pete? Like the angry black woman, the angry black man. It's like this trope in
Yeah,
in
yeah,
popular
I have
culture.
actually.
And why is it? It's because a lot of crazy shit happened to these folks, and they absolutely go insane. They don't know how
Yeah.
to deal with it. They don't know. There's no place to go to talk about it, to deal with it on a psychological level. To go to a psychologist like Renee and talk about your
Yeah.
feelings as a black man. There isn't
Yeah, no.
those
African
spaces.
Americans are like something like 9 times more likely to suffer from hypertension and anxiety than white people. Which
Yes,
is
yes.
which is insane because we're actually pretty predisposed to it as well. So 9 times more likely, that's a lot.
It is. It is. And so and that's like now where technically speaking, we're better off than we were back in 1927 or in 1950s or 1960s where they were sicking the dogs on black people. You're not getting dogs sicked on you today, but there's still such a perception of a Karen that's just gonna call the police on you while you're walking your dog because you're like, why are you walking your dog here? This
Yeah.
is, it's like because it's a public park. Yeah, I don't want to get into all that shit, but it does leave you kind of paranoid sometimes if you don't take a step back. Sometimes you got to take a step back from the news and be like, okay, this is not happening to everybody all the time.
Right.
Yes, it sucks when it happens, but chances of me being harassed by a white woman out of the blue, it's not as great as it feels like it is if I'm watching the news cycle all the time.
Right.
But it's still something shocking to your system. It still does shock your system. So it's good sometimes to get away from that news cycle. And so Chadwick, when his character speaks to that, that's what I thought was so powerful about his character, because even though this was 1927, it's what a lot of young black men still feel today. And shout out to a movie I watched, I don't know if we reviewed it or not, Pete, called Black Boys. It was a documentary.
No.
Oh, it was a cool little movie that I saw. It just kind of fell apart towards the end, but the first, like, let's say 60% of it was really awesome. And it talks about um, just being a young black boy growing up in America and what's expected of you, like what's expected of your future, as far as those things that we talked about in when you were talking about One Night in Miami. Yeah, if you're black, you gotta sing, you gotta dance, you gotta, what's your dream? Your dream is to be in the NBA, be in the NFL. Your dream isn't to be like a federal judge. Your dream isn't
Right.
to be a doctor, you know? So that's a lot of pressure because what are the chances of you actually being that? It's like less than 1%. It's less than 1% that you're going to be the next Kobe Bryant or even one of his teammates. So it's an unrealistic dream to have. And when you don't achieve those dreams, what is your life? What is left of your life? So Chadwick, he brought all of that to the point where in the end, when he does what he does, which we're not going to spoil for you, at least
Right.
me, I still felt for him. I was like, I get why I don't condone what he did, but I push.
There's something that happens to him to drive him to that point though. Like it's not the shoes, man. It's like
It's more than the shoes.
yeah, yeah. There are a lot
He
of things leading up to that.
there are a bunch of things leading up to that, and it just this feeling of frustration when you think you're getting ahead, but then you go right back to the back of the line.
Yeah,
So those shoes were a symbol of him. I'm high class. I made it. Why are you
exactly.
stepping on this shit? You know?
Yeah, and that was a beautiful scene too. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
nasty, but like you could feel his feelings, man.
Exactly. That's what I thought was he did such a great job acting in this scene. I mean, it was beautifully written, but where somebody could do something like what he did, but you don't hate him at the end. You feel sorry for him. You feel like the other
Yeah,
guys did. They just looked, and they weren't.
yeah,
There wasn't anger in their faces. There wasn't like I'm gonna kill you, motherfucker. It was
yeah.
just
It's like that could be us.
yeah, yeah. It was this unspoken communication. Oh, I'm getting all goosebumpy just thinking about it because it was really beautiful, and it's something that's tough to express sometimes um, to white audiences, to people that don't live that experience, and I think this movie was able to do it through art because you get these folks. I mean, the problem is these folks that go on CNN and Fox. They're a bunch of these like super lefty liberals, and they come off whiny and
Yeah,
I need the world to just revolve around me, and you need to call me by this, or else I'm going to sue you. Type, and so you it's just cry, cry, cry in victim
yeah,
mentality. So you turn off. But part of the message that they want transmitted is that it's in there. It's just they don't transmit it well enough. Which is the fact that look, there's shit that happens to us, and this is why we're psychos sometimes. Um,
yeah.
and they just don't transmit it very well. This movie transmitted the message. This is what could happen to your brother or your sister uh, growing up with this experience. So for me,
And this is why I'm all for people getting their shit out there. Like, even if your shit is bullshit, even if
yeah,
it's all in your mind, like, if you at least get it out there and, talk to people, maybe you can change your course, at least to the point where you don't do something that drastic,
exactly.
like let people know what you're feeling and, maybe someone will reach out to you.
Look at that. Renee's listening. I know she's getting all wet listening to you talk right now. 'Cause this is right down her alley. She's all about talk it out, breathe. She just started like a men's retreat now, so she's dealing with all of these black men talking about their feelings. So I'm sure she is giving you a virtual high five for your message, and it's true. Got to talk about it, and so I thought he stole the show. I know Viola is Viola, and Ma Rainey was incredible. Like when she got on screen, it just boom, everything stopped. But for me, that was his movie. Like that was
Okay.
the character that I was keyed into. Yeah,
Right.
more than her. But she was incredible, of course. But for me, it was the story of this dude more than her story. Because her story was just basically,
Well,
I'm a badass.
she's a real person, and he's not. This character that Chadwick Boseman played didn't exist actually.
Uh huh.
It was just like a hypothetical situation. So, I
Hmm.
mean, Ma Rainey is real. Uh,
Yes.
Levy
Although
was not.
I did love the end where she's driving away, or before she was driving away, and they didn't want to pay everybody the right amount and everything, and she was smart,
Yeah,
man.
yeah. Doesn't take
Because
it from somebody, man.
I'm not gonna give it completely away, but
Probably
she
why
got
her
them.
career went the way it did, because like if you look at like how many female blues musicians can you name?
Well, yeah, Bessie Smith and her. I mean, now
Yeah,
her, but from way back in that time. I mean, we later on you got some. What's her name? Shit. I'm having a brain fart here. Right before Aretha. What's her name?
Etta James.
Etta James. Yes, yes, Etta
Yeah,
James.
yeah.
Coco Smith nowadays, but not too many black.
No, but back in those days, it was
Yeah.
basically Ma Rainey, Bessie Smith, and Victoria Spivey, who was also a notorious drunk. And the
And
different,
Billie Holiday for a little bit, but then she went more jazz. But she
yes,
started
yeah,
out,
Billie Holiday was more jazz for sure,
yes. But she
um,
sang the blues too.
but those three, like Ma Rainey, Bessie Smith, Victoria Spivey, they were like the holy trinity of female blues in the 20s and early 30s. And unfortunately, Victoria Spivey and Bessie Smith both died broke, alcoholic, and young. Whereas Ma Rainey, she never achieved the same level of fame that those women did, but she got her due. Like she made sure she was fucking paid, and that's
Hmm.
why people stopped doing business with her. It's like, fuck, man, this woman is too much work. She's demanding that she be paid for her work. Like, God, what an uppity woman. But
Exactly.
yeah, so that's the legacy there. Really, like people who really follow blues know what Ma Rainey meant to blues music, but the reason why we never heard more from her and why she lived to be a ripe old age instead of dying an alcoholic at the age of 27 is because she did shit like this. Like she insisted on being paid for her work.
Yes. No, it made me curious to find out more about her because, like I said, I had never heard of her before. So I'm definitely gonna check out a documentary on her and find out more about her life. And it just amazed me how forward she was, and especially with her lesbian relationship. She's pretty
Yeah,
open
yeah.
about that.
At that time, man, that was fucking amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but she was all into that, and that was a cute girl too. So I can understand.
Definitely, and like half her age too. Like good.
Yes, half her age, doing
Yeah.
her thing. And so, highly recommend this one. Like I said at the beginning, I liked it a little bit more than Fences. Oh, let me say why, because I did mention that in the beginning. Although Fences was incredible. Because the thing with these, the only complaint I hear people say over and over, oh, it feels too much like a play, feels too much like a play. Well, because it's a fucking play. It's supposed
Yeah.
to play like that, okay? So yes, it does have a play feel to it because you're watching, and I see it as that. I go into it
I don't.
realizing
I don't mind that.
I don't mind it at all. It's like I've seen operas. Like I went to the Cinemark down here, and they were showing Madame Butterfly. That's my favorite opera, and it
Right.
was a fucking just a regular stage opera on the big screen, and it was beautiful. I mean, you had a few little camera angles, little to show that there's a camera guy working. But you're pretty much okay. I can't be at the Metropolitan Opera House in New York, so I'm gonna watch it for or La Scala in fucking Italy. So I'm gonna watch it at the Cinemark, and it was gorgeous. Now, and even Hamilton, I hear, I still haven't seen Hamilton. They did like a film kind of production of that. And it's like
Ah,
you gotta go in and just respect the beast as the beast is. And this
yeah.
is what it is. It's supposed to play as a play, but on film. But what I think they did a little bit better in this one, because I'm pretty sure Denzel might have directed Fences, and I don't think he had the directing chops if it was a little too it was jolty at the start. Like once it got going, Fences really, like, I got immersed in the film aspects of it. Where this one, the director from the start, like some of the cinematography, the angles, the editing, the way they cut from certain people, it although yes, it's a play on screen, it made me feel like I'm watching a movie too, like right from the start. Where Fences didn't at first, and it was a little bit jarring at the start because of that. But then once you get Denzel and Viola just going at it, it's like, how can you fucking go wrong, And it's a beautiful story. And but anyway, that's it. We got two more movies to talk about, so let's move ahead because it's getting late. We're gonna talk Queen's Gambit, and we're gonna talk Soul Guys, and wait around for Soul because I got some thoughts on that, which aren't contrary to the popular opinions of people
Oh, not a fan, are we? Oh my goodness.
when it
Yeah,
comes
we're
to
gonna
that
have to talk about
movie.
that.
But Queen's
Yeah, yeah.
hit. A lot
So
of
if
folks really enjoy that.
yeah, if you spend any time on social media,
Gambit.
you probably have this one annoying friend who's like, "Oh my God, the show is so good. The show is so good." And I've had a few friends like that, and then I became that annoying friend because it is actually really compelling. You wouldn't think it would be. And I am like such an ignorant cunt because I actually thought this was a true story. And apparently it's not. It's just based on a novel. And I owe quite a bit to my student, who I will not mention by name because she actually sometimes listens to our show. So I have to, yes, I have to mind my language. But she recommended this show to me, and she said she liked it because it was about a woman living in a man's world. And that is somewhat true. It is like you don't think of girls as being chess players. You think of like hardcore Soviet Chinese type people who live, sleep, and breathe chess. And this is about a woman who is at the very highest level of the chess game. And part of it is about a woman being in a man's world, but I think part of it is also about the madness of genius. She is incredibly smart because I don't know if you played chess ever. I used to play
I
chess.
love to play chess. I actually played it with my little cousin. He was over. I taught him how to play when he was like 8 years old. I love chess.
Nice. Nice. Yeah. So it's an incredibly complex game and it requires like a lot of brain power. And if you're operating on the level that this woman is, like you have to be really smart. But also if you're that smart, your brain is firing on all cylinders all the time. And when you are that smart, you kind of have to do things to drown it out. And so she becomes a drunk, she becomes a drug addict, she becomes promiscuous, and it becomes almost as much about the madness of genius as it does about the feminist aspect. And the feminist aspect is important, but it kind of takes a back seat to how like she is this really smart person who is almost too smart for her own good, like her intelligence is going to destroy her. and there's a lot of drama. Like, you wouldn't think that a TV show about chess, it's 7 episodes. You wouldn't think that a show like this would have that much drama, but it is incredibly compelling. She's really good in it. I'm afraid I'm poorly researched here, so I don't know the name of the actress, but
I'll get
she,
that for you. But by the way, Pete, we got a special guest that slipped in while you were talking. So Renee's on because apparently she's watched it, so she can give us a few thoughts on it too.
please, please.
Yes, and hi Renee,
Hello, Phil and Pete. How are you guys?
we're doing
Great
fine.
to have you. Yeah.
By the
Thank
way,
you.
the
Thank you
name
for having me.
by the way, the name of the actress is Anya Taylor-Joy, who plays the life of Beth Harmon. She's the chess.
Yes. I thought she was real, man. It was like finding out that Spinal Tap wasn't real.
Let me tell you, I absolutely love this. Same as what you were saying, Pete, right? I was like, how could a show about chess be so compelling, so moving? And I think for me, because so I'm a therapist, right?
Right.
And so I guess coming from that therapeutic standpoint, it's like I saw the pain that she went through, being adopted, not feeling loved,
Yeah.
having the dad not be part of her life and leave the mom, and then the mom committing suicide. It's like, so it just really touched you. And so, when she got into her addiction, it was like, to those pills that they gave her at the orphanage, it was just like you could see the suffering and you could see how you just felt for her, right?
Yeah, not only that, but she also kind of like learns from her mom because her mom's an alcoholic,
Yeah,
and
the
and
adopted mom.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and she just kind of follows that. It's like, hey, it's working for her. I'm just gonna climb in that bottle with her.
Yeah. And it was like everything is like you just wanted her to get the help that she needed to be successful. So you could really, really feel that character. And she was so good.
Yeah, yeah, she was very relatable. And the thing is, like, to take this back to the start, the beginning of her story is that she is actually orphaned in a car accident that she is the sole survivor of. Both her parents die, and she witnesses it. And then she's put into an orphanage, and basically her only friend is the janitor who plays chess games by himself in the basement. And she's like, teach me. And he's like, look, girls don't play chess. And then she cries, and he's like, okay, I'll teach you. And she
Mhm.
becomes like so good at it that like she's obsessive.
Right.
She's lying in bed at night playing chess games in her fucking head.
Ed, right?
And yeah, and this is where the addiction comes from, because when your brain is firing on that many cylinders at once, you need
Mhm.
to shut it the fuck down. Like, you need to just like tell your brain like, good night, I don't want to think about anything. I don't
Right.
want to do anything complex. But she can't help it.
Right. Well, she did have one other friend at the orphanage, which was the black girl who
That's
actually ended
right.
up
Yeah.
coming to help her at the end when she needed the money to
Yeah.
go to Russia. And so it was just great to see that, like in terms of this old friend from the orphanage coming back and reconnecting with her and even helping her.
Yeah.
So that was just beautiful as well.
And
Yeah, yeah. There were a lot of good character relationships in this. I actually really liked the fucking macho dude who tutored her for Soviet match.
Oh,
Like,
yes.
the guy was a scumbag, but it was kind of cool how like they were cool with each other. Like, they knew what each other were. They knew what their relationship was. It wasn't a conflict. They just like they had their time together, and that was it.
this is it's a show I haven't had time to watch yet, but it's on my ever growing list of things to watch. But as a fan of chess, I think I would definitely like to watch it. You can see the drama. It's only 7 episodes.
It's only
Yeah,
7 episodes. Yeah.
Oh, then I'll definitely watch it. I thought it was longer. No,
No,
I'll
no,
get to it.
it's quite short. It's quite
I'll
yeah.
short.
get to it.
And it's
Uh,
interesting because you don't have to really be a chess. Well, I know you said you're a
No,
chess
you
fan,
don't
but
have to
I'm not
know
a chess
anything
fan.
about chess to appreciate
Yeah.
it at all.
no, those are the best movies, though. Pete was talking about in his quick picks, Renee. He was talking about a movie he saw called Moneyball, and it's not a movie that you have to know or love baseball to enjoy. You know, it's just
Hmm.
it's the drama around it, or even I mean, if you feel the fucking dreams, rest in peace, James. No, rest in peace. No, happy birthday, James Earl Jones. Um,
Right,
Yeah,
yeah,
he's not dead
please
yet.
don't try to
yes.
manifest that. Not
I
yet.
know
Mhm.
Hank Aaron is the one that died just this
Yeah.
past week. But it's a movie that shit. If you don't love baseball, come on. I mean, Field of Dreams is a great fucking movie, or A League of Their Own. Like it just happens to be in the background, but the it's not a movie that you need to have infinite knowledge of the game to understand what it meant to those characters or what it means to those characters and the relations that they're going through. So a good story can have almost any backdrop. If it's a good story,
Yeah.
it's a good story. It's a good fucking story, you
Yeah.
know? Um, now, we got Renee on. We don't have her on very often. Renee, who happens to be, can I tell Pete in what state you're in? Can I tell our audience?
You can.
Yeah, Renee, who is absolutely butt ass naked right now. So she was asking if it's a problem.
Oh God, Renee, I taught naked on Skype like a month ago. It was so fucking hot. I woke up and I was like, I got 10 minutes until class, and
Mhm.
like I don't even have time for a shower, and I'm just not gonna turn the camera on. I'm doing
I,
this in
I'm
the buff.
I'm pantless right now as we speak. I'm not putting on pantless and underwearless. I just happen to have a
Right.
little white beater on.
Well, I
But
have nothing at all. So
yeah,
I was like,
welcome.
can I come on? I'm not putting on any clothes.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
It's too
But
hot.
but while Renee is on, because we don't have her on that often, do you got any quick picks for us? We'll do like Renee quick picks. Anything that you've watched that you think we should have on our radar?
Oh man, I have not watched anything lately, so sorry, I can't help with that. I have
What were those
what?
shows you were watching at the end of last year? That was it something about the sex in different countries or something? That seemed.
Oh yes, yes. So yeah, there were some
That
pretty
sounds
good.
good.
Yes. No, so there's Sex and Love Around the World. That was really good. It's only 6 episodes. And it's interesting because it just shows people and their relationships in different countries. They look at Japan, China, India, Ghana, and Germany, and one other place I'm forgetting now, but there's 6. And it's really good because you get to, they were showing how it's changed, how it originally was. And then once patriarchy came into the system and colonization in different countries, how the sexuality and the relationships changed. So,
Yeah, you had said something interesting about like so in one of the Asian countries. I don't know if it's Japan or China or India, about how they don't touch each other that much. It's like it's kind of so like when their sex is really horrible because they don't really like even during the day they just don't practice touching.
yeah,
And
so in
Japanese
Japan.
women, Japanese women apparently report the lowest rate of sexual satisfaction among any country in the world.
Oh yeah, and it was that country. It was in Japan, and it was actually so bad that a lot of the people there had sex dolls or just the big dolls, and that they would just lay with.
God
And
damn.
yeah, in Japan they would have the clubs, the bars where people would pay like
Yeah,
10
yeah, I've heard
ten
this.
thousand, yeah, $10,000 just to literally touch someone, not even to have sex, but just to hold hands or hug. ten
Yeah,
thousand dollars. Can you
yeah.
imagine?
There's these fetish bars where they're actually like subway cars, and you pay money to get on these subway cars, and just grope women. Like you don't fuck or anything. Like you just like grab their ass and like that's your fetish.
God
Yeah.
damn.
What
Oh,
do we
that's
call
like
that,
that's
Bill?
the encoxada, the
Encoxada.
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 Encoxada. I
Yeah.
was teaching Renee about the encoxadas this year. That happens on the buses here in Brazil.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's not because they can't do it at any other time. It's because they're fucking pervs.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that
Um,
seemed like an interesting show. And what was the other one that you said you were watching? I think it was a cartoon.
yeah. So the
Uh,
other one that I saw was Grand Army. It was a cartoon that I told you about. I forget what it's called now.
was it the
But
monster one? Like
Big
Monster
Mouth. It was Big Mouth.
Big Mouth. Yeah, but
Big
talk
Mouth
about
was
that later.
Grand
But
Army.
what's the army
But
one you're talking?
yeah, Grand Army was good, and that just really showed teenagers, and you because you just don't realize what teenagers is going through. So there's two with that: Grand Army and Sex Education. Both are similar but very different. With if that makes sense, but they were just showing what these kids were going through to be accepted, to connect, to feel loved, but then also the sexual abuse that they're going through. Sex Education was cute because the boy in that, his mom was a sex educator. So it would be like me if I had kids. And she was like getting it on, and this poor guy was like traumatized by it. And
And that's
and
why
and
Renee doesn't have kids.
right. Yeah, I don't want to traumatize my kids. I've
She does.
traumatized my nieces and nephews already. They'd be like, Auntie, don't make this strange. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, like I'm the one who walks through with my nieces and nephews traveling, and I have my vibrator and dildos in my bags. And I actually had one time one of the TSA agents took my vibrator out and was like, "What's this?" It was like that big magic wand, and I was like, "If I gotta tell you what this is, you need help. Here's my card." So that was kind of cute. But then the boy ended up kind of learning from his mom, and I don't want to spoil the whole thing, but he ends up becoming the therapist of the school. But it's really good and just kind of helping the kids with the classmates with the different things that they were going through. And then Grand Army had more of a feel of a huge sex assault and how that played out in the girl's life who was and actually that was the same thing when we were talking about the encoshada, right?
Hmm.
That's what happened to her on a bus, and you just saw how it affected this girl,
Mm.
so yeah, they were really good to watch.
Did you hear about this series? I know Pete might have. I think it's out of Norway. It's a cartoon for kids with this guy with a really big dick.
Denmark. Denmark.
Denmark. It was okay, out of Denmark, and it's just a cartoon with this guy with this really
The
big
guy
dick.
who has a huge penis. Yes.
Yes, and he uses
Oh,
it to, like barbecue, and like he realizes he can do things with it instead of just having it in the way, and it's like creating a bit of controversy.
right, I definitely
For
gotta
obvious
watch it
reasons. I know, I'm trying to
I mean, if
find
it's
this
a big
series.
dick, I want to watch it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but it's not like a real dick. It looks like a Lego dick.
yes, it's
Oh
all
yeah.
cartoony. It's made for kids. It's like it's
Yeah,
supposed
it's
to
a kids show about a
be
guy
a
with a
kid
big
show. So
penis.
it's like a goofy character, you know. It's like this little chubby dude with this huge penis. And I
But
watched
no,
the intro to it.
I think huge is an understatement. It's like about 4 meters long. Like
Yes.
it really is that big. Like I've only seen one clip of it, but the dude's like out barbecuing, and his penis like extends to the fence from his front
Yes.
door, which is about like a 4 meter distance.
Yes.
And
So
it's doing all kinds of crazy things too, like
the intro
barbecuing.
was really funny. The intro to it was really funny with the little intro song. It's like, this is Boris with a big dick, you know. It's like, I don't know how to find this series, but I really want to watch it. But cool. Renee, did you get a chance to watch the movie Soul? Because we're going to talk about that next.
I did not. I did not. So I just thought I could jump in real quick for the Queen's Gambit and then gracefully exit and go to bed.
All right. Well, we'll be on for a little bit more talking about Soul. And it's funny that you mentioned that about Pete, about the addiction of this woman. Hang on just a little bit, Renee. The
Okay.
addiction of this that this lady had, because there's a scene in Soul that talks about that a little bit, about how you can get in the zone, but sometimes the zone can lead you to be lost in this plane that's between death and the real world, where you just kind of you're not productive. You know, you get lost there. But I'm gonna give a few thoughts on Soul, but I kind of hang out just for a little bit, Renee, because I kind of want. I think I kind of want to hear a little bit of your perspective on something, because
You
no,
trying to make me
seriously,
stay on here?
just for a little
We'd
bit. Just
love
for a
to
little.
have you. We'd love to
I
have you.
know Renee's fun, man. You bring life to the show.
Oh,
We're just
thank you. My
it's a
bed loves
sausage.
my bed
It's,
loves to have me too.
Yeah,
mm.
if we didn't have a female if we didn't have a female presence on this show, Phil would be using like the B word like every 10
Oh, I
minutes.
still use it with Renee. Trust me.
Yeah.
Yes.
He
Uh,
sees me as one of the guys, so you know.
I know. I mean, you lift the level of the show a little bit because we just talk about. Yeah, I don't even want to get into it. But anyway, so look, Pixar. This is their supposedly their first movie starring a black character. You know, so woohoo, wonderful for Pixar. And that was part of the promotion of this movie. So I think that that in a way cannot be understated as far as how I viewed the movie, because they've had movies. They had the one with the Polynesian girl, was it Moana or something? They had Cujo, not Cujo, Coco, with the Mexican that goes into the afterlife. And it's funny that this movie has to do with the afterlife too. So basic plot here is about this black guy played by Jamie Foxx, who is a really good musician, a pianist, jazz pianist, but he didn't really get to where he dreamt he could have gone in life, which is play in a real jazz band and gig around.
Mhm.
And instead, he's teaching a bunch of really bad kids, not bad in the sense that they're
They're
bad
not bad kids, they're
kids,
bad
bad
musicians.
players, yeah, bad
Right.
Yeah.
musicians in a high school. And finally he gets his chance to play in this big gig, and he's so excited about it. He's calling everybody. He's not watching where he's walking. He falls into a manhole and dies.
Oh no.
And this is like
Yeah.
15 minutes into the fucking movie.
Yeah, it's pretty early.
So
Pretty
I'm like,
early.
so I'm like, okay, you had this movie that grabbed me because I really related to it. One, because I'm a musician. Two, because I'm a teacher. And
Right.
three, because I've had those dreams before of like, oh, I want to be this, I want to be that. And yet I'm like, I'm teaching. So, but I'm happy with my life, you know, and I had to realize to appreciate the things in my life that, you know, where I'm at is where I should be. And that was kind of the message of the movie by the time you get to the end. But I was kind of upset with this movie on a few levels. One, you get this really rich black character. You show this black culture with through the music, through jazz, through everything, and then 15 minutes into it, you kill him off, and then you spend about 40 minutes of the movie out in like the afterlife. He doesn't want to die, so he escapes this little ladder that's going up into the great beyond and goes into like this intermittent area where they're making new souls to go back into to kind of be put into bodies. And
Yeah.
he tries to figure out a way to like get himself back into his own body. So you get this big section of the movie that's jarring because the animation is completely different from the animation we're seeing here on the screen. It's all this kind of like, I don't know, it's weird. It's like uh, two-dimensional drawings. It's very bizarre. It's like the imagery is very jarring. He looks kind of like Casper, you know, like a little droplet Casper when he's up in his dead phase. And then when you get him back in his body, because they do jump, you know, he meets this spirit that's very rebellious, that doesn't want to go to Earth. She's like,
Yeah. Well, he spends half the movie as a cat. That's kind of an
That's
important.
yeah, exactly. So then when they get back into the, because he befriends this little girl, 22, played by Tina Fey, who just does not want to go into a body. You know, she's had all the mentors like in history, from Mother Teresa to Einstein to whoever, Abraham Lincoln,
No,
Gandhi,
like Cleopatra. She goes back to
Cleopatra. She
Cleopatra.
goes
Yeah.
back. She's number 22. She's soul number 22. So she goes way back. They're like in soul 1 billion by now. She does not just likes her life as a little spirit in that intermittent zone. She doesn't want to go down to
Right.
earth and inhabit a body. So then when they jump back, well, he figures out a way to like jump into back into his body. She slips by mistake, gets thrown down to earth with him, and she goes into his body, and he goes into the body of a cat. So
Yeah.
then this supposed first black movie is about this white girl inside this black dude's body. All the important
Well, we
characters.
don't know she's white. We don't
Okay,
know she's
It's
white.
Tina Fey. Come on, she's a white girl. So yeah, I was talking to my friend Elisa about that. She said the same thing. Well, we don't know that she's a white girl. It's Tina fucking Fey. It's Tina Fey, which I love, by the way. I think Tina Fey is really funny. Um, and so we get Tina Fey. Let's put it that way, inside this black guy's body, and then the next whatever 30 minutes of the movie, which are the meat of this movie, which is almost on this vibe of like what's that, we talked about it during the Christmas special, It's a Wonderful Life. It's almost like it has a
Right.
wonderful life feel to it, like this is your
Yeah.
life and this is why you should appreciate it. It's all seen through her eyes, even though he's the cat, because what happened, Renee,
Mhm.
is that when he's lying on a hospital bed, this lady brought in like a therapy cat that was on his bed. So when the two souls kind of jumped in, they missed the mark a little bit, and she jumped
Oh.
into his body that was on the hospital bed, and he jumped into the cat's body. So he's watching everything as this cat, and then um, he's going, he's like, we gotta get me back into my own body. Like, we really need to do this before this gig at 7
Yeah,
p.m.
that's the important thing. They have to get to the gig.
Exactly. So as we go to the gig, he has these little adventures. He goes to the barber shop. Because his hair gets fucked up by her because she doesn't know how to use the body correctly or something. But in either case, I don't want to tell the whole movie. What upset me, and Renee, later, I still want to get your thoughts on something here, as I'm building to something.
Okay.
Uh, so again, upset me that now we had this Tina Fey, not the white girl, Tina Fey inside this black guy's body, and all the important character development. The fact that one of his students comes up to the apartment who wanted to quit the jazz band. Tina Fey is the one that's able to get this little girl to realize, hey, maybe you really got talent and you really want to do it. The barber that he never really got time to talk to and really get to know, he just went in there for a cut, finally opens up and talks about his life. It's Tina Fey that does this, and not him. The important moment that he has with his mother, played by what's her name, Rashida, from the Cosby Show.
I'm
Um, yes, again, it's Tina Fey, even though the cat says just repeat what I say. But I was disappointed with this. I was like, the Moana was all fucking Moana. Coco, even though I haven't seen Coco, but from what people have said, it's a great movie. It's all fucking Coco. It's this Mexican movie. But then when you get this black fucking movie, it's fucking Tina Fey, and she has all the important plot beats. Eventually at the end, and I don't give a shit. It's the end of the show. Spoilers. Uh, at the end of it, he does end up getting back to his body because there's almost a white savior moment. Like she realizes that, hey, I really want to be on Earth now. So she runs away with his body. There's this little spirit from the afterworld that is after him because he's like, I'm missing a count. Like, somebody should be dead. Where is this person? So he's able to find them, and he like kills them again. And so Tina Fey's body goes back up to the top, and he realizes, oh, I really, really, really think that this little spirit deserves to live on Earth. I'm willing to give up my life down here that I just got back, that I worked hard as hell to get back, to get this Tina Fey
Hmm.
back down to Earth. They went there, and then at the last second, they didn't do it completely. Whereas both him and her were able to incorporate into a physical body, because the folks down at the Spirit Lounge, the ones that were sending spirits to Earth, said, "We've never had anybody get this girl to change this way, and you really went out of your way for her. So as a gift, we're letting you be reborn into your body, or not reborn. We're letting you like go back into your own body." And it's like, so then at the end of the movie, they do this thing where it's like, what are you gonna do now that you're alive again? He's like, well, I'm just gonna live life. And it was just a fucking mess of a movie. I'm sorry. I know a lot of people love Soul. I think Pete even enjoyed the movie a little bit.
I
I did
liked it a
not like
lot,
it
actually.
at all. I thought the messages were all over the place. They had some interesting. So Renee, I suggest watching it for the afterlife scenes, because
Okay.
they did bring up a lot of interesting stuff about reincarnation, about so where souls come from. I mean, it was a kind of intense for a little kid. Like, it came out on Christmas. I'm wondering, like, the conversation that parents would have with kids after watching this movie, because it's seriously dealing with death and reincarnation, and where souls come from, how personalities are built, all this stuff. It's a lot of real deep metaphysical shit, including the part where I said, where they were like, oh, when people are in the zone, they get into this area, this plane that's between the afterlife and this life, so they're connected. So that stuff was cool. My friend
Yeah,
Elisa loved that stuff. But I just thought it was a fail in terms of, one, it wasn't focused. What is the actual message of this movie? I don't think it really knew what its perfect message was. And two was that it wasn't really about this black man, you know? So before you go, Pete, because I know Pete watched this movie and I know Renee has to go, I just want to ask Renee, um, how uh, representation of black characters in animated, in children's movies, what your thoughts are about that, one, and two, is it enough for a character to just happen to be black, or do you think when you have a historical movie like this, like the first Pixar movie about black folks, that it needs to be more than just, oh, it's a great story, it's just he happens to be black?
Yeah. So let's
I'm
go with
hitting
number
you with
two
the heart.
first. Like, yeah, let's go with number two first. Like, when it's just when it's the latter, oh, this is a great Pixar movie and he happens to be black. It's like it just feels like they're throwing in that token black person and say we got a black person in there finally. With no real substance to developing the character as a black person, or a black man in this case, right? Um, so I think it will definitely have black people feel a certain way about that. Like, I mean, if you're gonna put a black person in there, make it count. Make it show something deeper, the struggles, or something that, or about that, develop that black character's life. It's hard for me to say more without having seen the show, you know, but just from what you said, it just feels like it was just throwing in a token just to say that we did it.
I felt that way. I felt that way because it's like it's because the beginning, it grabbed me so much through the jazz. The music is beautiful in this movie, by the way. The
Mhm.
jazz, his life, it it was like, wow, I'm seeing me. Like, I related to this
Mhm.
character as me, because I'm a teacher too. I'm probably around whatever his age was, and I'm living that, of like, I've had hopes and dreams and this and that, and I'm not living that right now, but I appreciate the things that I have. So I was like, wow, this is me. This is my movie.
Right, you can relate
And
to
then
that.
it's like, no, it's the Tina Fey fucking movie, and I'm like,
Yeah, and
what?
it's like, and that's really tiring to, you know, we have a history of having the white savior, right? Was that show Lean on Me or whatever, where white lady comes in and helping out the black kids in the schools who are going through their issues, and it's like let's change that. Let's change that script. Let's change that story.
I would have appreciated the movie more if it had done that. If it just would have shown him, he could have died and come back. It could have been like It's a
Yeah,
Wonderful Life and just remake It's a Wonderful Life, but just through his eyes without
yeah,
this. So that was the
yeah.
part that was upsetting for me. But let me get Pete's opinion because he's enjoyed it. Although before you go, Pete, I just want to Craig again. He always shows up on our podcast by spirit. He said something really interesting on his page way back when the movie came out. He said that Pixar actually had hired like consultants, to talk about like what
Yeah,
black
to
people
not
look like.
portray black people in an offensive or demeaning way.
In which they didn't, by the way. They did a really good job. But then I
Yeah.
joked on his page, like I
Yeah,
said,
it's like the easiest fucking thing in the world to do. Like,
I don't
how the
know what
fuck do you have to pay people to do that?
I know.
Right,
But Pete, you know what I said on his page? I said, first I was like, well, why don't you just hire more fucking black people, Pixar? And then I was like,
right,
okay. And then,
Yeah.
evil me gone now. Okay, it's nice that they did that. But the evil me was just like, just hire more black folks. And then you don't have to,
yeah,
it's like studying for your thesis at the end of university to write a fucking black character. It's not that difficult, guys. It's
right.
not that difficult to
It
write a black
really isn't.
and it's not that difficult to hire fucking talented black uh, animators and writers because they're out there,
Yeah.
a whole bunch out there. But go ahead, I want to hear Pete's thoughts on this.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what I really liked about this is that it approached the concept of afterlife from a philosophical point of view rather than a spiritual point of view.
Yes.
And apparently, a lot of people think I'm wrong about this because this is another one. My student Gabriella, who is the same one who recommended the Queen's Gambit to me, she said she recommended it to her mother, and her mother took it as totally spiritual. I did not at all. I took this as being like very non-denominational, approaching the afterlife from a completely spiritual point of view, or sorry, a completely philosophical point of view, not a spiritual one. And I like that because it made it a little more accessible to everybody. And
Mhm.
I kind of related to the struggles of the character, like fuck, like your big moment is literally like an hour away, and you fucked it all up, and the whole point of the movie is him getting back to his one big break, and he goes through like a lot of crazy clusterfucks along the way. Honestly, most of the points that you've raised about it, I didn't really even consider because obviously that's not within my ethnic frame of reference. So it didn't really. I mean, I didn't even think of the spirit character as a white person. She's just a spirit. So that wasn't really a consideration for me at all. But I enjoyed its philosophical nature. I really felt like it approached the concept of something beyond death as something that didn't necessarily have to be spiritual. It was just philosophical.
I dug that aspect of it. I mean, I got a little bit more of a spiritual vibe, but I got the philosophical one too. Because when they just that it was spiritual in that part of it, Renee, I think it's worth watching. By the way, I kind of ragged
Yeah.
on it on that end of it, but it's a cute little movie. I mean, it
Mhm.
works. It just feels like, oh, we had the chance, like Pixar had the chance to make something amazing dealing with black culture, and they didn't. But it's still like a cool little movie. It's not a bad movie at all. Um,
But I
but
definitely feel like I would watch it. I would definitely watch Soul as well as my
oh yeah, I
So
mean, Ma Rainey
yeah.
is definitely I thought was a better movie. but Soul, you might dig, and I think you'll dig it from what Pete just said, because that
Yeah.
is one thing that I really dug about it, and my friend Elisa and I were talking about it, and she dug it from that angle too, which is how they dealt with death and what happens after, the afterlife. And it didn't come from a denominational angle, and it kind of came from a lot of Eastern philosophy. Like, I was kind of surprised when they dealt with this thing,
Yeah,
because what happens is when he dies, there's like this big escalator that he's going up to go to the great beyond, and he asks people, "Where are we going?" They're like, "We're going to the great beyond." And he's like, "What?" And it's like, "Oh, you must have died suddenly because you don't know where you are." And he starts going down on the up escalator until finally he breaks through to this other place. In that, I thought was kind of cool to show in a cartoon this idea of this is where souls are created,
Hmm.
and they're sent down to Earth
this
to
is why
inhabit.
you need to watch BoJack Horseman, man.
Oh, I know. You've told me about this show for so long. I do need to get on BoJack because it seems like an interesting show too. Um, and so, and yeah, just this idea of even having spirit guides up top that help. They mentor the young spirits, to get them prepared in finding their spark before they go down there. So they show them like a bunch of everything, whether it's economics or playing guitar or kicking a
Yeah, they have
ball.
their set roles.
Yes, it's like the little spirits walk around until they can find something that really excites them. So then when you get down to a body, it's almost this idea of like, how are people, like, how was Mozart, it's like he just was, it's like, oh, he was born to be Mozart. So I like that aspect, even though that part of the movie went on forever. It felt like forever, where they're just exposition, trying to explain the rules of the afterlife, which is not something, I mean, it's not something you can explain in 30 minutes, I don't think, um, but yeah, I just felt disappointed in that, because it felt like it could have, compared to what Pixar has done with other uh characters, whether it's toys, whether it's cars, even so sometimes not even humans, uh but even what they've done with culturally with Moana and Coco, where they went balls deep into like, hey, we're gonna go into this culture and really allow this character from minute 1 to minute 130 to be themselves and explore themselves. And it's like they didn't do that with this movie. It's like you gave us like a quarter of the movie, even, because it's like after 15 minutes he dies, and then they spend another 30 minutes up in the afterlife, and in the next 30 minutes it's Tina Fey in his body, and then finally in the last 5 minutes it's like him actually back to being him, and it's like, oh, it's like, I, you missed the mark a little bit by not giving us that. So that was disappointing, and especially if I compare it to like a movie that I loved from, was it last year or the year before, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which was gorgeous animation wise and story wise. Because here we have a little black kid. He's a mix Puerto Rican and black, and it doesn't have to be the struggle, the slave, because I don't like that either. Like, it gets old after a while. Like, every black movie has to be about how we were slaves. Fuck that shit. It's like, no, black people do more than just cry about slavery. They dance, they sing, they write, they talk, they philosophize, whatever. So I loved Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, little Miles Morales, because he was just a little black kid from where does Spider-Man live, in Brooklyn? Um,
Queens, Queens.
Hmm.
Queens. Yeah, I don't know if he was Miles was from there, but in any case, you it was just, I got a sense of his culture, of his background, of who this little boy was, and then he had this thing happen to him that he turned into a version of Spider-Man, and it doesn't have to scream, I'm black and I'm Puerto Rican. No, but you got his culture 100%. Like, that was part of the movie, which made it special. Or even Black Panther, also, to a little bit larger extent. But it's, but both, Black Panther especially had like almost 90%. It was like a black behind the scene and in front of the cameras. That helps a lot. So I don't know. Pixar just didn't do it for me. Disney's kind of in hot water with their whole Star Wars thing with with John Boyega and Kim. What was the girl that played Rose? So they're in a lot of hot water for not doing representation very well. And I don't think they did a good job here. You know, I don't think they did a good job here at all. In fact, Pete, I know Pete's a big Star Wars fan. Disney was just in the news this morning because apparently you got this black girl doing like one of their after shows for some show they have, and she's getting a lot of racist backlash on
Mm.
Twitter. So Disney wrote, you know, we regret this. Disney does not stand for this. Star Wars is an inclusive environment. And all the Twitter folks are like, that's so fucking hypocritical because where were you when Daisy Riley, whatever her name was, the girl that played the lead in
Ridley.
Ridley, yeah. And where were you with John Boyega was complaining about shit, and the girl that played Rose, who's an Asian American, and because there's
Ah, they shafted her, man.
yeah, they completely shafted her. They didn't stand up for her. Because, dude, there's a difference between not liking a character, and I wasn't a big fan of Rose, and then just going about her Asian heritage, her eyes, her body type. The same thing with the girl that was the lead for these last Star Wars movies. There's one thing about not liking the character, which wasn't my favorite, but just why this, why that? How can a stormtrooper be black? This and it's like Disney should have shut that down from day one and should have doubled down and maybe written her better and not just completely shafted these characters. They became secondary characters come the second, third movie. And it's like, wow, how could you do this? So I don't know, do better, Pixar. I wasn't
Yes.
entirely happy with the movie, even though it's cute. It works. It's a cute movie. It's not like the best Pixar movie ever. It's not like Toy Story 3 where you're gonna cry at the end. And yes, I cried at the end of Toy Story 3. Uh, but oh, that one hits hard, Pete. Have you seen Toy Story 3? Have you
I
seen
have
it, Renee?
not.
I have not.
Oh my God, watch Toy Story fucking 3, but like just be ready to have your life crushed. Oh my fucking Lord.
Oh
Toy Story
man.
4 sucked. It wasn't that good. But Toy Story 3 is when this little boy's a little bit older and he's going to college and he donates his toys. In the end, where, oh, I don't even want to talk about it. I'm going to cry. It's just fucking
Aw.
deep, man. It's a kid's movie. It's about all the shit that you just have to let go when you get to a certain age. When you get, see, I'm getting emotional. Watch it and cry. Cry like a little baby because that movie hits fucking
I've
hard.
heard it's good. I have heard it's good.
It's the of all of them, that's my favorite. I mean, the first one
Oh
is
wow.
classic. It's classic. But Toy
Yeah,
Story
I love the
3,
first one. Yeah.
the second one's okay, but the third one, any review that you see of it, people are like, this shit is meant to like just crush you emotionally.
That's
So
nice.
Oh.
it's a gorgeous movie, really gorgeous movie. So it's not on that level. It's not even close, but it's decent. But I just wanted Renee to stay on a little bit, just to get that, just to get
you just
her
you just wanted to
her
make
views.
sure I stayed up and not go to sleep.
No, because because it's like what Pete said. There's stuff that he doesn't notice. He doesn't see, and it's nothing. It's not a mark against him. It's just how was he supposed to notice? Like he's a dude. It's the same way. I'm sure if like when I'm watching a movie and it's about women, I may really love it, and then I ask Renee, and Renee's gonna be like, "Women don't talk like that. Women don't want to do that." You know, how the
Yeah.
fuck am I supposed to know? I don't have a vagina. You know,
No, but
so
it's cool. It really is good to be able to hear different perspectives.
of
And
course, yeah.
and not only am I a woman, I'm a black woman. So obviously the way that I was raised is going to be different than you or Pete. So we're going to come from different perspectives. And it's great to be able to hear the different perspectives. I think having that variety is really
That's
good.
why I love it when you can jump in because me and Pete, even though Pete's a Canadian white boy and I'm not, that's still just two sides of the coin, you know? So it's always cool when we get a woman's voice in here and be like, okay, but this is where I see it coming from a female perspective, so that's always cool. Um, and it's not a shot against anybody, guys. If anybody's
No.
listening, that okay, Pete didn't see something or I didn't see something. It's like, well, how the fuck am I supposed to see something? That's why we converse and we learn from each other and see, oh,
Right.
sometimes there's shit that Pete sees because he said that in the group. Because I told him in the Talking Films group, I think Renee might jump in and talk about Ma Rainey. And he's like, oh, great. Now I'm going to be like the odd man out. And I'm like, no, it's the opposite. Because sometimes there's shit that you're seeing coming from a totally like objective, I just want to see if this is a good or bad movie level. And whereas me and Renee may come at it from a more emotional level because it's a story that's closer to our background, that makes us go, oh shit, we didn't even notice that. And Pete talks a lot about this. Where, look, Pete, this is your moment. I'm
Okay.
applauding you with platitudes here. But he says something really cool sometimes, and sometimes I think people get offended, where he's like, you know what? I think sometimes some movies that are not written by like a Chinese movie, let's say, that's not written by Chinese folks, sometimes it's better than one written by Chinese folks because they're in it. Like Renee, you and I we're like the fish in the water that don't know we're in the water. If you get somebody from
Hmm.
the outside looking in, he can tell us sometimes something about ourselves that we can't see because we're in it. You
Right.
know, so I'm not against a white man writing Lovecraft Country, for example. That was written by a white man. The book, not the show. Uh, I'm not against Steven Spielberg directing the fucking Color Purple. I mean, that's a gorgeous fucking movie because Steven is looking from the outside in. Sometimes he can show something about us that we didn't even see because we're
Right.
in it, right?
Right.
So I think it's always cool to have these kind of mixed perspectives from all over the place.
I
Yeah, I
agree. I
was
agree.
I was speaking more about national cultures than ethnic cultures, though. I mean, in terms of ethnic culture, I think that's something that probably needs to be kept in the family. But in terms of national cultures, I think actually outside expertise is invaluable.
Yeah,
Um,
but
y-
but they all kind of merge sometimes, Pete. I mean,
right.
I agree with you. When it gets into like real deep ethnic stuff, of course, you want somebody that's from there because there's stuff. It's like Toni Morrison, bringing her up again. She talks about the shorthand. There's a shorthand that a black author can give to a character that a white person wouldn't be able to do, whether it's just a
Right.
look. I know when Renee gives me some look sometimes, I know exactly what the fuck she, you know? And that's a
Yeah.
shorthand within the black community that's like
Right.
where the white person might have to write. And then Renee said, what the fuck are you talking about? you know, whereas whereas a black author might just say, and she turned her head at a 45-degree angle,
Right.
and you
Yeah.
know what that means. Though a black woman with a 45-degree angle
Yeah.
face
Yeah.
turn.
I've lived in Brazil long enough that I know what that look means.
Yeah, so it's interesting. But anyway, guys,
We're
thank you, Renee.
done.
You have any final thoughts on this? Because it's past my bedtime. I know it's
It's
past Renee's
way
bedtime.
past my bedtime as well.
Yeah, we're
So,
past my bedtime.
y'all, the movies we talked about tonight, One Night in Miami, which I have to see. Maybe that should be our date night, Renee, because I did not see that.
You
Pete, can you
guys
put
will like it, man. If you like Sam Cooke, you'll like this movie. I sang the praises of Muhammad Ali, but yeah, if you love Sam Cooke, this is the movie for you.
So
Uh,
big thumbs up. Ma Rainey for me, big thumbs up. And like I said, for me, Chadwick stole the show. I mean, I know Viola gets the headliner credits, but for me, he carried that movie. He was incredible. So big thumbs up. Queen's Gambit, thumbs up from you guys.
Definitely,
yes,
definitely.
definitely. Yeah, I would watch that again, like every episode,
Me
10
too. Me
times.
too. Yeah, yeah, for sure. I'm sad it's over. Actually.
Yeah,
And
me too.
and
Me too.
so, as much as I ragged on it, it's a cute movie. I mean, I'll give it a thumbs up. Watch it. It's a cute movie. It irked me with some of that I ranted on a little bit, and it was a little unfocused as to what to its central theme was. I mean, that's on a more objective level, but thumbs up for me. And I know Pete dug it.
Yeah,
And
yeah, I give it a thumbs up as well. I'm not crazy about it, but it was fun. Killed like 90 minutes over Christmas, so I'm happy with that.
and that's it, y'all. Thanks for watching.
Oh,
Thanks, Renee.
right.
Oh,
We had a
oh,
great show today.
I
Yeah,
No,
know.
awesome. I'm
no
so happy to
technical
have been a
pro.
part of it.
Yeah, yeah, and well, you're one of the reasons why it was a great show. But we had no technical problems. We had good movies to talk about. We had an awesome, unexpected guest, and yeah, great.
And we're all naked, more or less. Maybe Pete isn't, but Pete.
Actually, I am actually more clothed than I have been in the last 3 days because fuck, dude, like I can't believe this. I thought I was done with flooding, but that storm we had, like all the water is actually leaking into my apartment now, and I have a small lake in the middle of my kitchen, which
Oh
is
God. Yeah, it rained
yeah,
really hard. It rained really hard. So, y'all, don't forget Thursday nights, 8 p.m.
X
Eastern Standard Time.
Files.
It's the X Files. We're going in it. I know Renee's a huge X Files fan, but unfortunately, she's Renee. I don't know how she does it. She does everything. She's like, I'm every woman. It's all in me. Because she's here, she's there, she's doing a retreat. She's teaching people how to masturbate, how to do anal massages, and I don't know how she has time to like breathe. So I
Yeah,
did
I don't
invite
either. I
her
don't
to
know.
watch. I invited her to watch the X Files and jump in for a while to talk with us, but I don't think she's going to get around to it, which is fine. We still love her, but
Yeah.
She should jump right in with Beyond the Sea because that is right up her alley.
oh, Beyond the
It's
Sea is a good one.
spiritual and
Yes.
Yeah, I would love that too. It's just the time because I've been saying to Phil, like, I want to see, I watched the X Files when it was on TV. I watched the movies. I I want to see my Rainey. So there's so much I want to see right now, but my
yeah,
life just
Mhm.
got so
it,
busy.
it becomes a
It
backlog. It becomes a backlog.
You know what?
really does.
You know what we'll do, Renee?
Mhm.
When we get to the movie, you come in for the movie. Fight the future.
Ah, yeah, yeah. Fight the future.
Yes, both
Oh yeah.
movies. 'Cause there's two
Oh,
movies.
so you
So
guys are talking about X Files, the show that was on before.
yeah, not the
Yeah,
movie
Oh,
yeah.
itself.
I've seen all of the episodes.
All
Yeah, no, we're
right.
we're we're
Yeah.
rewatching them. We started from episode one, and we're just every week we're doing 6 episodes at a time. So now we're on season one. This
Episode
Thursday,
13 will be.
13. Yeah, because we did two shows already, so we already knocked off 12, and then we're gonna do episode 13 and onward.
Okay. Okay, well,
Yes.
we'll see if I get to rewatch it, then I could possibly jump in because it was so long ago. But yeah.
Yeah,
All
no,
right.
to jump in, you would have to rewatch a little bit because it was really
Yeah.
long ago, and I forgot most
Yeah.
of it. But if
Yeah.
you don't have time for it, at least make some time when we get to the movie, and then you can talk to us about the movie.
Okay,
And
Yeah,
that
that'll
sounds
be
good.
or even if you don't watch them, like once we start talking about them, it'll probably bring back some memories. So
True. Very true.
definitely. All right, my dear,
All
and
right.
Pete. I can't
cheers,
call Pete my
people.
dear.
No, no, I would take offense to that. You can call me bitch, but not my dear.
I know Pete's too hetero for that. See you guys until next week or until Thursday if you listen to both shows. And by the way, Renee is at Prandara Prem. She's a sex therapist. She's a therapist, just in general. She's a wonderful person, and you can her channel on YouTube is it also Prandara Prem the YouTube channel, or is it Renee
Yeah,
Adolfi on YouTube?
you can find it either way. You can find it either Prandata Prim or Renee Adolfi.
Yes, and she's on usually on Wednesday nights. She does her lives,
Yeah.
right? It's Wednesday nights
Yeah.
around what? It's 10 p.m. Is it, what
Yes.
time is it?
7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so 9 p.m. Brazil. Next
Mhm.
Wednesday, you're supposed to be on my live, so make sure you
Oh
don't
shit!
do
I'm glad
anything
you reminded
else.
me. Yeah, I'm
It's
glad
the
you
first
reminded me.
Wednesday, so nothing else planned. You're coming
All
on.
right, cool. I'll be here. If I'm not in Campinas, but even if I'm in Campinas, I'll find a way
Even
to
if
do
you're
it.
in Campinas, you're gonna do
Yeah.
it. All right. Well, you
Uh,
guys have a wonderful night. Thank you for allowing me to crash
Cheers.
the
Thanks,
see you,
party.
Renee.
baby.
You're welcome. Bye. Good night. Boa
Good night.
noite.
Boa noite. And good night to all you guys. Thanks for watching. I changed the little thing. How come it didn't change? Oh, I know why. 1 second, Pete. I'm a little OCD, so I'm just waiting for it to hit 2 hours exactly. I don't want to end it at 1:59:57. So there you go. Thanks for watching. And now we're leaving at the 2 hour mark exactly.
Wow.
Goodbye.
Damn, that went long.